Matt Walsh, who I don't know how many of you are actually familiar with Matt, but he's a prominent figure of the Daily Wire, which is a right-wing media company. Matt just directed a film that you may have heard of. It was very controversial. It was called What is a Woman? But yeah, let me talk about Matt, because this is, again, on the topic of language. Recently, part of one of his podcast episodes, he talked about how the Dallas Cowboys owner, Jerry Jones, apologized for using the M-word. And this confused Matt. And I'm going to read you basically what he said, because I'm not going to play it for copyright reasons. I don't want to get into any troubles there. So I'm going to read you what Matt said. So imagine, hear it in like a really deadpan, voice. Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones issued an apology on Tuesday after using what has been dubbed the M word, and that's M as in Mary. Matt then goes to say, doesn't little person sound patronizing? You're saying, oh, look at that little person. To me, that seems more offensive than the M word. He then asked, has anyone explained what exactly is wrong with that word and what's the inherent quality that makes it offensive? Can anyone explain it to me? Or has it just been decided randomly because this is what they do? When he's talking about they, he's talking about the, liberals. He then goes on to say, this is what the PC police does. This is their MO. It's just to go along and kind of just randomly change the labels for things. Oh, that label doesn't work anymore. That's expired. That word is past its expiration date. ... He then closes his statement by saying, sorry, not going to do it, can't do it. Meaning he's going to continue to use the M word despite knowing that it's offensive. All right, so let's break that down, Again, this ties in with a lot of the themes of this episode around language. Matt is a conservative, and he has an issue with not being able to use the M word because he thinks that it's something that the left, the PC police, have just called it offensive without really any justification for saying it's offensive. He asked, why is that, who can explain this to him? Why is it offensive? And, with a simple Google search, why is, the M word offensive? I found this on the Little People of America website, and I'm going to read it out, okay? Little People of America, the world's oldest and largest dwarfism support organization, and an international membership-based organization for people with dwarfism and their families, advocates to abolish the use of the word. It's the M word. The M word was never coined as the official term to identify people with dwarfism, but was created as a label used to refer to people of short stature who were on public display for curiosity and sport. Today, the M word is considered a derogatory slur. The dwarfism community has voiced that they prefer to be referred to as dwarfs, little people, people of short stature, or having dwarfism, or simply and most preferably by their given name. That's common sense to me. When they surveyed their community about the usage and overall impact of the M word, over 90% of the members of Little People of America stated that the word should never be used in reference to a person with dwarfism. And also, I learned from past podcast episodes, I've had guest Toria Jones on, and I've had Vinny Rupolo on, who both live with dwarfism. And Toria explained to me that, the word, the M word, again, I'm not going to say it, is also, the literal meaning of it is small fly or gnat. Here's a fun fact. The Little People of America, which is where what I just quoted, was originally called the M words of America in 1957. The name was changed to Little People of America in 1960. So that was over 60 years ago. So, Matt's having an issue with this word, but this was addressed 60 years ago. This isn't a modern day thing, Matt. This is something that has been addressed for over 60 years. So that's their own community saying, don't use this word. How is this something that the PC police are up to? And also, How did your team not search that and find that out for you? Or are you just trying to make anything and everything you can sound like, the liberals are ruining everything? So how exactly is this a woke problem if it's something that has been addressed for so long? And with that said, like, I will say that, like, not all people care. Not all people from the dwarfism community have the same issue with this word. That's true. Matt's right about that. Some people probably don't care. Again, that's 90% of the little people of America voted against using it at all. That's 10% who are in the gray. And then you also have people in the community who are not part of little people of America. So it's not a universal thing. I admit that. But, language is tricky, right? For example, I know people in the disability community who use the word cripple, amongst their peers who are also disabled. And the word cripple is used as a derogatory slur if an able-bodied person says it. But, used amongst each other, it's kind of like, in term of endearment, something that you can only say to each other. So language is complicated. It's not something that you can just simplify. Again, this is going back to Kamala Harris describing the blue suit, for the blind and visually impaired listeners. Like, not everything needs to be made political. Not everything is the woke left trying to take away everyone's fun and make everyone talk in a way they don't want to talk. Like, that's not what's going on here. But I will say this, and if someone disagrees and has proof otherwise, I'd love for you to tell me. But it does seem, though, that the left is the only side really trying to be accessible. But with that said, the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed by a Republican president, proudly too. So, I don't know. But like in terms of language, it's like, it does seem like in 2022 that the left is doing this, and then the right is viewing it as, accessible and inclusive language for people with disabilities, people with hearing loss, blindness. That's just something that the woke does. And I really do not want it to be associated with that, because that's going to make an even bigger stigma around it than there already is. So please quit politicizing accessible and inclusive language for disabilities. And I'll end on this. Matt, you know better, man. I know you do. You're a smart guy. In fact, what you did with this is, ironically enough, what you accused the left of doing. You're making something political when it shouldn't be. So use common sense, the thing you always talk about people need to use.